Guys, Graham Allen here with That Properties, and today I want to talk about closing costs. All right, so a lot of people ask the question, what is it going to cost me overall to buy a home? And we can't just think about the purchase price of the home, or maybe also, just add in, the rate that the lender's going to give you. That's not it. You got to think about what's the money you're going to bring to the table at the closing. Those are what's called closing costs. Closing costs are the fees associated with actually purchasing the home, as well as the fees that the lender charges you for originating the loan and going through all the steps that they go through, right? So all those are due at the closing. Now, the closing is basically when the title is transferred from the seller to the buyer. And what I've done is I brought my guy in, Brian Sewell from Cherry Creek Mortgage, and what he's going to do is kind of help us break this the closing costs down, break them down item by item, and kind of what you can expect to be included in your closing costs. So, Brian, what can we expect?
Yeah, thanks again for having me on, Graham. So there's various costs regarding the loan. So there's lender costs, there processing costs, sometimes credit check fees. There's an appraisal fee, and what an appraisal fee is, that tells us, give us an idea what the fair market value is, how much your house is worth. You're going to buy a home, you want to make sure that you're not overpaying for the house, or you're not going into it upside down. So it'll give us an idea that that house is worth the price that you're just on the contract for. There's also a thing called title costs. So title costs, there's title insurance, and there's two types of title insurance. There's the owner's title policy and the lender's title policy. The lender's policy is for us that we can make sure that we're as a lender, that we're protected and that we're in their first lien position. And the owner's title policy covers the seller side. So when you come to a closing, there's going to be a chain of title, which, not to give you too much into the title process, but there's a chain of title to make sure that there are no other anyone else can claim ownership to this property, that the only liens that we're taking care of or that the seller's side is going to be paying off is their side, and then that we are going on as first lien. In addition to that, there are escrow costs. So if you're including your taxes and insurance in the payment, there's we're going to collect a certain amount of months for property taxes and a certain amount for insurance, and so that those things are paid up front. Taxes generally are paid twice a year, and they're paid a year behind in Illinois. So it kind of gives you an idea what closing costs consist of. But what I did mention is also mortgage insurance. Doing an FHA loan, there's a thing called upfront mortgage insurance, and then a regular conventional loan with less than 20% down, there's a monthly mortgage insurance. And mortgage insurance protects the lenders from foreclosure. Doesn't benefit you, benefits us in order to buy a home with less than 20% down.
Gotcha. Okay, so all of those fees, we're going to add those all up, and what's a general kind of a way to figure out what that actual cost is going to be? Is it 2 to 5% of the purchase price, or kind of how can we kind of figure out what that number ahead of time is going to be so that we can plan, we can budget before we actually start to search for a dream home?
That's a great question. So it depends on the product. We talked about mortgage insurance a few minutes ago, but generally speaking, it's average between 2 and 3% all in. So depending on your product, how much you put down and things of that nature.
Gotcha. Okay, so now we say 2 to 3%, right? Is that right?
That's fair.
Okay, so we're talking about 2 to 3% of our purchase price, and whatever our dream home or whatever we're looking to get into, whatever that purchase price is, we're saying 2 to 3%. How can we now? As a realtor, I know that I can sit there and go and we can try to negotiate with the seller to kind of get some closing cost credits, right? So we can sit there and go and try to get them to pitch in for my buyer, if they're really in a need to sell, that they can pay some of those closing costs, right? What can you guys do to help us buyers and kind of limit the number or the amount of closing costs that we incur when we're looking to purchase?
Well, there's a couple things. So, for example, depending on your loan size, a lot of times there's money left over with the rate. There's no true par rate where it's zero. Generally speaking, there's either a little bit of cost, or there's a credit. So, depending on the loan size and your credit score, we may be able to offset that cost. And I'll give you a quick example. If you're at $250,000 purchase, let's say you got really good credit, there's probably a little bit of credit left over to offset the cost, offset some of the costs. In addition, I mentioned earlier about what closing costs are regarding the escrow account, taxes, and insurance. We're going to be escrowing ahead of time, so your taxes are paid when they come due after closing. You're also going to receive tax credit. In Illinois, you get a nice tax credit depending on the time of year you close. That helps offset some of the costs. So you're not always truly bringing in that extra 2 to 3%. some of the tax credit and some of the credit that you can receive from us as a lender, depending on the program you choose and the rate that you choose, offsetting the par cost can lower those costs.
Awesome. Brian, man, always appreciate your time, appreciate your knowledge. Like I said, guys, in a previous video, Brian's one of the brightest minds I know in the lending game. Guys, this is kind of the basis of kind of what closing costs are. You know, you know now what closing costs, what they actually are, right? The fees that are associated with buying the home, as well as the, you know, the origination or getting the loan, right? We now have kind of broken down what the fees actually are, right? Brian's given us kind of a list, a checklist of the fees that we can expect to pay. Then we've come up with the kind of the amount, right? So that you can kind of do that math on your own and kind of prepare ahead of time, okay? And then we've talked about different ways that you need to check with your realtor about getting back some of these closing costs, but also talk to your lender about what they can do, okay? So guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you, and see you next time, guys. Bye.